All right, guys, so we started the show yesterday on Lisa Cook, who is one of the Board of Governors. She's a governor on the Board of Governors overseeing the Federal Reserve. And that gives you a 14-year term, I think it is, when you get appointed. Yeah, 14-year term. She was appointed under Joe Biden, and so she's officially supposed to be on there through the 2030s. And she just got fired by President Trump, and she says, hell no, I won't go. She is refusing to leave the post. And President Trump fired her because he says she's been credibly accused of committing mortgage fraud, which is a problem for really anybody, but certainly for someone in her position. And her case has been referred to the Department of Justice by this guy, Bill Pulte, who oversees the mortgaging industry. Trump posted to Truth Social. On Monday, he posted to Truth Social the letter that he sent to Lisa Cook that reads, pursuant to my authority under Article 2 of the Constitution and the Federal Reserve Act, you are hereby removed from your position on the Board of Governors, effective immediately. The Federal Reserve Act provides that you may be removed at my discretion for cause. Trump noted that the DOJ's inquiry into whether she lied on mortgage applications amounted to sufficient cause to remove her. In light of your deceitful and potentially criminal conduct in a financial matter, they cannot, and I do not, have such confidence in your integrity. Her term set to expire by its terms in January 2038. So she gave a statement to Politico as follows. President Trump purported to fire me for cause when no cause exists under the law, and he has no authority to do so. I will not resign. I will continue to carry out my duties to help the American economy as I have been doing since 2022. Her lawyer, Cook's attorney, Abby Lowell, again, he's the ubiquitous when it comes to Democrat candidates and causes. President Trump has taken to social media to once again fire by tweet, and once again his reflex to bully is flawed and his demands lack any proper process, basis, or legal authority. We will take whatever actions are needed to prevent his attempted illegal action. We believe that he's now filing a lawsuit to stop this attempted firing. What the media wants you to know about Lisa Cook is black woman, black woman, black woman, black woman, first and only black woman on the Board of Governors, which somehow is supposed to mean that you cannot be fired. I guess I have superior abilities to avoid getting fired. So does Kmele. You two guys are effed because we have superpowers. Mine are from below the waist and Kmele's are all over him. And these give you the ability to never get fired, even if you've committed a criminal fraud, as she's now being accused of. She denies it. Chris Rufo, always there with something in his back pocket, adds this to the conversation from April of 2024 when she was nominated. She's also apparently a plagiarist. He went back and looked at her academic work. He says it contains plagiarism, according to her former university's policy. He went through, says her publication history is quite thin, has serious methodological errors, largely focuses on race activism rather than rigorous quantitative econ. And he has all the examples. And as far as we can tell, Lisa Cook really doesn't have all those stellar credentials when it comes to economics either. Yesterday, we pointed out how her biggest accomplishment when it comes to like her academic write-ups appears to have been she wrote something about how when lynching was happening to blacks in the United States, it led to fewer patents being filed by those who were lynched. Now, I'm sorry, but this doesn't seem like such an aha moment that we would lead to like some deep thought dissertation, but I guess Lisa Cook got credit for it. So what we're learning now is that the two properties she bought, because she's accused of doing kind of what Adam Schiff and Letitia James are accused of doing, having two residences and declaring them both as your primary residence so you can get a lower mortgage, which would be fraud if you did that. And she declared both her Ann Arbor, Michigan property and her Atlanta, Georgia property, her principal residence. And apparently she did it within 2 weeks. This I didn't know yesterday. She bought each or got the mortgage for each within 2 weeks of one another. So there was no mistake. She's not going to be able to argue it was an error. She knew that she was buying two properties at once, and she knew that only one could be a principal residence. And that, I would suggest, makes it look even more intentional than we knew. And less like a mistake. And so what do you think should happen here? Do you think Trump should stand by his effort to remove her? Should the DOJ prosecute her? if it does indeed have this documentation that Bill Pulte says exists? And what do you think is really going on here? Anyone?
Don't we legally have to defer to Kmele? Go ahead, Kmele.
No, of course. Not legally, but it's usually a good idea, just in general, not on this particular matter. Look, you have an allegation. You don't have any sort of criminal charge that's been filed. An allegation on its face is perhaps not enough to justify a reasonable cause for dismissal here. But one can suspect that the likelihood of a charge happening in this particular case, given the interest of the president and given the fact that the Justice Department seems to have an interest in prosecuting cases like this, it could very well happen, in which case then the dismissal actually happens and the dispute and questions about whether or not the president has the authority to do this goes away. But there are still some lingering concerns, and I'll come to that in a moment. But I will say that the defense of this particular woman has not been particularly glorious. The profile that the New York Times wrote up over the weekend really does have, and it's almost like, it feels like comedy. She's draped in one of those like kente cloth sashes, and it's like emblazoned in the headline as first black woman. And these facts don't matter to me whatsoever. I am actually interested in if a federal official, or at least here an appointee at the Federal Reserve, is engaged in some sort of financial fraud, even a rather small-ish thing that lots of Americans, I imagine, have been guilty of, which is somewhat lying on mortgage or loan applications, which interestingly has a weird parallel to a legal drama that Donald Trump himself found himself caught up in, which I was personally quite skeptical. And in fact, I think we probably talked about it on this show a couple of times. Like, I thought that was dubious. I thought prosecuting him for any of that stuff seemed completely outlandish, especially because there was no one who lost any money. He repaid the loans, et cetera, et cetera. And in this particular case, I think that these cases, even the Letitia James stuff, like, none of it rises to the level of being particularly concerning to me. So I think that the lesson here perhaps ought to have been, we should tread lightly to the extent that we're engaging in prosecutions or even investigations that could have serious political ramifications for people that we dislike. I think the unfortunate thing for the president and the administration more broadly is that in a couple of these cases, including the John Bolton stuff earlier this week, they're so determined to spike the football. Even if all of these investigations are above board and there are legitimate grounds for getting rid of these people or prosecuting them, the thing that you would expect is kind of decorum. That is an ongoing investigation. We're not going to comment on it. Instead, even if, again, I'm going to take them at their word in these legitimate cases, they make it hard to defend it publicly because they're so determined to spike the football, to call these people stupid, to put up kind of insulting tweets about how, no one is above the law. I see what you're doing there. And
I love it. I'm like, spike it, do it. Like, what? With the 4 years we got from Tish James, no one's above the law, as she was rabidly pursuing Trump. No, we cannot move forward.
I thought she was wrong then. She was wrong then.
She was, but they will not learn unless they are forced to suffer. And so I'm 100% behind it. If Lisa Cook did not fill out primary residence on 2 mortgage applications within 2 weeks, she would not have this problem. I'm sorry, but like, she brought it upon herself. I'm sick of, like, I don't do this. I really don't. Like, you say a lot of people might have this problem. I don't have this problem. I actually have always been very Pollyanna-ish when it comes to this kind of thing. You don't commit fraud. Character is what you do behind closed doors. You could get away with it. You can't get away with it. It's irrelevant. You don't do it because it's wrong and it's against the law. And if she did it, on her, she deserves what she gets. I have zero sympathy for her. And then the nerve to do it, allegedly, and then like take this job. And they're saying in the reporting now that she may have lied about it when she interviewed for this job, where she's going to be a mortgage rate assessor, decider, enforcer. No, absolutely not. You may not have this sort of a blemish on your record, which is criminal, and hold that job. I say fire her ass, take it to court, and actually this should be the least of her legal problems. She should be defending against Pam Bondi for most of the time.
I want to be clear. I'm not acknowledging that I haven't engaged in any sort of mortgage fraud to my knowledge. I've always been truthful on my mortgage loan applications. I'm just saying in general, I don't like the specter of these kinds of things being politicized. I think we're better off as a country when people can indifferently, perhaps, just look at these prosecutions and say, you know what? I have some trust and confidence that people are going to pursue these cases in an above board, legitimate manner. That's what I want.
But my own view is the only way back to that norm is to make them suffer. They must have skin in the game. We cannot take the high road and get out of this. We tried that. We didn't prosecute Hillary Clinton, though it's looking more and more every day like we should have. Trump tried to go high road in 1.0. They ruined his first term, and then they tried to lock him up for 4 years and bankrupt him. And now they must suffer. They must suffer, or we're just going to go through this again, but only with Republicans. So I think really you have to take the nose and rub it in the crap in order for these people to learn that it's a really unfortunate, unpleasant process. Don't do this. Don't do this again. And not to find somebody who didn't commit a crime and go after them. That would be very, very wrong. But if Bill Pulte, kicks the tires on your car and he finds mortgage fraud rolling away, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Sorry.
I'm not in the box your way towards peace camp. When I associate myself with comments of the economic historian Philip Magnus, a pretty good follow on Twitter, who said, I opposed, although I didn't, but just because I didn't know her, I opposed her appointment to begin with because she's mediocre and bad, and I oppose Trump being the one to fire her because I don't want the president to have that much authority over the Federal Reserve Board. It's better to have a quasi-independent or fully independent Federal Reserve, if we are going to have a Federal Reserve, than it is to have something that's being impacted by the president. I think there's a problem that Democrats have here, and the media by extension, because it's a lot of the same sort of initiatives. And again, I'm saying this is someone who thinks that Trump shouldn't do this, and that, as Harvey Silverglade has pointed out in a book of the same name, the average American commits 3 felonies a day because there's so many things that have been classified as a felony. If you want to find me doing a crime, and I don't even smoke pot, Megyn Kelly, you could probably find me doing a crime, and I certainly don't smoke mortgages, for crying out loud. People are crazy owning property. But the problem is that Democrats in their sort of spaces, in their administrative state, in their kind of just sort of soft neoliberal sort of governance of things, they are constantly appointing people who aren't great. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't like RFK. I know you do, Megyn. We won't argue about that right now. But everyone's up in arms about RFK being appointed as head of HHS. Tell me how much greater Javier Becerra was.
Yeah, exactly.
An absolute total political hack with zero relevant experience, appointed by a president in 2021 when, I don't know, was there something going on with public health in 2021? Yeah.
What will the effect of the sparring between President Trump and the Federal Reserve be? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time, or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown? And what does this mean for your savings? Consider diversifying with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or an old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Again, text MK to 989898 and consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. So if the Fed cannot stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.